Saxony is the port of call for the second-to-last Porsche Carrera Cup Germany race weekend. The series visits the tradition-steeped Sachsenring. The races were staged on the 8.7-kilometre city circuit until 1990. The current configuration is a demanding 3.6-kilometre circuit featuring challenges galore. Corners that require courage, blind crests, hardly any runoff areas, a unique circuit that really challenges the drivers on the second-to-last race weekend of the 911 Cup. Race Union driver Richard Wagner presents the track in detail.
Welcome to a lap on Sachsenring. Last turn, good to be on full throttle early because it's a long straight and a good overtaking position. From second gear up to fifth. Braking zone, preparing for braking. On the hill, 150 meters down to second gear. Difficult to get the apex because it's a downhill and you don't see it. Waiting, back on full throttle now. Third gear, balance throttle to keep the car rolling. Down the hill into the Omega in third gear. Shifting down to second. Long rolling. Need to be patient. Down up to third again. Also again balance throttle to keep the car rolling. Now back on full throttle to the fastest sector, or to the fastest left turn I've ever had in this year. Yeah, it's getting back on now. So now left uphill, down to fourth, and now full throttle. And it's also here is really important to be really fast because it's the longest straight, and down the hill it's the fastest with 250, so it's a very good overtaking position. Down sixth gear, 250, braking down to third gear, rotating the car into the apex and full throttle again. Fourth gear, completely on the curb. Braking early for last turn and a long straight. Second gear, full throttle early, and that's it. That's the lap on Sachsenring with Richard Wagner.
Races 11 and 12 mean decision time is close. Everything is still up for grabs, and that includes the hotly contested Rookie Championship. Dylan Pereira is the overall leader in the classification for the drivers contesting their first Carrera Cup season. Igor Valilko from Poland is lying second. Time to check which of them is superior off the track. Time for our rookie duel. Pereira and Valilko cross swords in 3 categories. First, a tyre change. Which driver is faster with a mini impact wrench?
2, 1 und go!
Dylan Pereira comes out on top in the first challenge. Igor must bounce back now. Game 2 is going to be the quiz. The driver's knowledge is tested. First question, how long is the Sachsenring in meters? Igor Valilko is closer to the truth. A point for him, it's 3.645 meters to be exact. Question 2, what's the minimum weight of the 911 GT3 Cup? The right answer, 1,232 kilograms. Dylan is almost spot on, leveling the scores. The last question will be decisive. In which year was the first Porsche 911 manufactured?
I did it.
Both are way off the mark here. 1963 would have been the right answer. Igor is closer and wins the quiz. It's 1-1 overall. Time for the final game. Brake pressure. The task, who can press the GT3 Cup brake pedal harder? Igor Valilko begins. Igor achieves a 174 bar, which equals about 170 kilograms per square centimetre. Dylan must beat that. And he does. 8 bar more on the meter means Dylan Pereira wins our duel. And then the focus turns to the actual track. It's time for qualifying. And Thomas Preining is not to be stopped. The Austrian clinches the double pole once again. Qualifying went according to plan. Fortunately, we're on pole twice. It was a very tough session. Many periods with red lights when we couldn't drive. It stifled the rhythm and the plan a bit. But this way, I'm even happier it went so well. It couldn't have gone better. Now we have to make the most of our 2 poles. Things didn't go quite so well for Dylan Pereira. The Luxembourger failed to complete a lap for race 1 because of a gearbox failure and will be starting from the very back of the field. Last year's rookie champion, Larry ten Voorde, will be starting from P3 behind Michael Ammermuller. Thomas Preining's only remaining rival for the championship starts behind the overall leader in both races. So onto the grid for race 1 on Saturday. Thomas Preining then on pole position for the 8th time this season. Right alongside him is Michael Ammermuller, who will be going from P2 on the grid. And there is Michael Ammermuller inside the car, ready for race number 1. And going from P3, it's Larry ten Voorde. It's going to be very tight going into turn number 1. Lots of spectators to enjoy the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany race action. And Thomas Preining with the last seconds before the race starts. Robert Lechner, the team principal of Lechner Racing, on the pit wall. The 3.671 kilometre circuit featuring 14 turns, 10 of them left-handers, 4 of them right-handers, away to race number 1. So as the cars scream away, let's go on board with Thomas Preining. Michael Ammermuller right behind him. Marius Nacken dives to the inside and pushes Michael Ammermuller, who ends up losing 3 positions because Zimmermann and Wolf are also able to go through as well. On board with Richard Wagner now at the back of the field. Dylan Pereira left and Jaap van Lagen on the right-hand side of the car. And staying on the right side, we see Soren Spreng spinning and Richard Wagner crashing. It's very close at the Sachsenring. On board with Henrik Skog now as Mikael de Quesada is right next to him. Now we saw Soren Spreng go around, and unfortunately the damage contained to the Porsche of Soren Spreng means that he will not be able to continue in the race and has to retire the car. A replay of the start then. Marius Nacken with a brilliant start. He manages to put himself alongside Larry ten Voorde before they even get to the right-hander, which is turn number 1, so he picks up P3 and then goes for P2 with a very physical move on Michael Ammermuller. I was already in the corner. I turned in and he approached from a very tight angle and hit my door. He used me, therefore, to turn in. So I ran off and unfortunately dropped a few positions.
Yeah, for me, he gave me the gap and I took it. I was driving straight and turned into the turn 1 like normal. He turned right, and I think for me it was good.
Always good to get both drivers' opinions, as we can see it again from a different angle here. Well, certainly there did appear to be a gap that Marius Nacken went for, and unfortunately both Larry ten Voorde and Michael Ammermuller losing out in the early stages of that race. On-board view of Soren Spreng, who of course runs off track and then spins, and didn't get collected by any other drivers, but regrettably it has meant a retirement for Soren Spreng. On board with Richard Wagner, who was a mere passenger at this point and could not avoid contact on the spun Soren Spreng car. So the order then is Preining, Nacken, then is Zimmermann, Wolf, and then Michael Ammermuller, who we go on board with now, chasing down the Wolf car ahead of him. Ammermuller really piling on the pressure, and if he gets a supreme exit out of this final turn here at the Sachsenring, you'll see him dive to the inside now. Wolf gets just a little bit of curb, and that means that Ammermuller is able to get up on the inside. He has got the momentum and finds himself heading into turn number 1, having made up one of those valuable places. So perfect execution of an overtake manoeuvre around the final turn. Larry ten Voorde also trying to take advantage as well. Let's go back on board with Michael Ammermuller, then looking back at Wolf and Vililko. And on board with Jaap van Lagen now, who's behind Tom Lautenschlager. He also had to start from the back because of a window that did not correspond to the regulations. He does overtake Tom Lautenschlager and is now behind Lukas Oertel and Stefan Raykopf. Up next, it's Larry ten Voorde, who is directly behind Wolf, tries to overtake, but Wolf puts the car exactly where he needs to deny Larry ten Voorde the opportunity to go to the inside. So ten Voorde has to take a look at the outside. It's a long way round going into turn number 1, and as they run downhill, Larry ten Voorde is denied, although he now tries to switch to the inside, and wherever Larry ten Voorde places the car, then the car ahead of him is able to defend. We're on board with Henrik Skoog now, who's fighting with his Swedish compatriot Gustav Malja. So Gustav Malja then is ahead of Henrik Skoog at the moment. And again, this onboard shot showing us just how hard these drivers are trying to find a way and a place to overtake on this really challenging Sachsenring circuit. Henrik Skoog then, but again, very good defense from Gustav Malja. Thomas Preining is in front. The gap is already 10 seconds. Nacken is P2. Ammermuller now very close to Zimmerman. The rookie is fighting here for a podium place, and Michael Ammermuller all over the back of him. This is Jaap van Lagen. He is behind Carlos Rivas, the best amateur driver. The Dutchman overtakes and tries to catch Michael de Quesada as well, but the American, as you can see here, really rather forcefully closes the door. Jaap van Lagen will finish the race at P12. This is Jacob Eidson then. Look at the concentration as he looks into the rear-view mirror as well. Jacob Eidson driving for the Project 1 team. Another one of the rookie drivers. He is behind Henrik Skoog and Gustav Malja and has an exclusive view of the duel between the two Swedes going on ahead of him as we go back on board with Henrik Skoog to enjoy this battle that's going on for P10. Wow! That's how close these two drivers are getting. Now, Thomas Preining's out on his own in the lead. Then it's Marius Nacken, Tim Zimmerman, Michael Ammermuller and Larry ten Voorde following. Nacken and Zimmerman on their way to their best result ever in the Porsche Carrera Cup, and Wolf is continuing to fight with Valilko. Now we can see the big gap between Thomas Preining and the others. 13 seconds in the end. Ammermuller trying everything he can to catch Zimmerman, but the Black Falcon driver is continuing to be able to defend. So on board with Michael Ammermuller then, as he really does try and find a way past the Tim Zimmerman car, the Black Falcon driver, the rookie driver, who this would be his first overall podium if he's able to hold on to this place. In the meantime, let's go on board with Jaap van Lagen now. He is behind Lucas and Eidson then, and really pressuring and pushing them, bearing in mind that Jaap van Lagen out of position on the grid relative to that penalty that he took earlier on. So continues to push and push and push. A slight mistake there from Jacob Eidson allows Lucas to go through. And Jaap van Lagen is not going to need an invitation twice. And with the momentum and speed that he's able to carry, sure enough, Jaap van Lagen is able to go past also. Zimmerman is so much slower than Michael Ammermuller that ten Voorde has caught up with Michael Ammermuller. Zimmerman makes an error under braking. Ammermuller cannot pass, but Larry ten Voorde has got a chance. So Michael Ammermuller stays in P4, very close behind Tim Zimmerman. So let's keep an eye on this, as you can see Larry ten Voorde all over the back of Michael Ammermuller now. Great racing going on between these, and Michael Ammermuller really under pressure now. So in slow motion, the same situation. That was where Larry ten Voorde was able to put himself on the inside of the Michael Ammermuller car, but didn't have quite the speed to be able to carry on with it. On board with Wolf, and Valilko is behind him. Wolf lives literally 50 kilometers away from this particular racetrack. So very much a local driver. And Zimmerman then continuing to defend. Will he make it this time as Ammermuller goes for it? He needs a podium finish, of course, to keep his championship chances alive. But at the moment, you have to say it's been a very impressive drive from Zimmerman, who has held on to this. So Sandro Kaibach behind. Kaibach's dad was a Carrera Cup driver ages ago. Kaibach will finish P16 in the race today. Now Kaibach's teammate Chris Wright is in the gravel, and not for the first time this weekend. Maybe the track is just too demanding. On board with Stefan Raykopf, fighting with his teammate Jorn Schmidt-Stade. Both are competing in the amateur class. Carlos Rivas will win the amateur race, but Jorn Schmidt-Stade remains overall leader. This is Thomas Preining then, with but a few meters to go. He laps Peter Schoven and will win his 7th race of the season, and Team Lechner very happy with his performance. Today's heroes got to be Tim Zimmerman and Marius Nacken, their first podium ever. Both are very satisfied. Let's hear from Marius Nacken first of all.
It was really good feeling to cross the finish line. was for me a long race, 19 laps. I could see the guys behind me the whole race. Thomas was really fast. So it was just good to cross the finish line in P2, and I'm really happy about that.
I got past Ammermuller at the start, and then he was behind me for the whole race. But really, just behind me. I had to block him and to defend a lot, but I made it. So I would say P3 was deserved. It was absolutely incredible. So Black Falcon very happy then, the first podium for them this year. Team Lechner Racing have more than one reason to celebrate after Thomas Preining's victory. The 25 points mean the team championship title for the Austrians. The team championship says it all. There's more to it than two drivers or one family who have been active in motorsport for a long time. Many enthusiastic people are part of it, and this is the reward. I want to pass it on to everybody at home, from accounting, bookkeeping, and the whole back office, to the person who orders the parts in the store and the person who loads the truck. Then the lads who are here, who spend the whole year with the driver. It's so much more, and that's why we're happy. Jake Eidson takes the wheel for Team Project One, and he's driving the 911 for a very good cause, for the Racing for Children Foundation, which fights children's cancer. Besides raising money, it's about making the children's everyday lives more diverse and more entertaining.
Fortunately, I was able to be with Racing for Children and Medical Properties Trust last year over in America in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge USA, and it was really cool because at one of our races at Barber, we were able to have a lot of the kids from Children's of Alabama come out to the track, and we were able to have a lot of kids come put their handprints on the car. We were actually even able to take the car itself to the hospital, and they were able to see the unveiling of the car. So all those things together made it really, really fun.
So onto the grid for race 2 then. It is Sunday, and Jacob Eidson will be starting from P14 on the grid. We wish him well. Thomas Preining then, what a weekend he has had as we look at the entire grid, and it's always a busy place ahead of the start of the race. So as I was saying, Thomas Preining, what a weekend he has had. It's another pole position for the driver of the car, number 10 then. Thomas Preining inside the car, ready for this race in the Porsche Carrera Cup. What a stellar season he has had. Michael Ammermuller goes from P2. He, of course, will be hoping for a slightly better start than he had in race 1. You will recall how he was attacked and passed by Marius Nacken right at the start of the race. Rather feel that Michael Ammermuller will make the car very wide going into turn number 1 on this occasion. Then Larry ten Voorde then, the young Netherlands-based racer who drives for Project One, is going from P3 on the grid. Perhaps the surprise of the weekend is Tony Wolff, who will be going from P4 as we look at his car now. Highly motivated and benefiting, of course, from having a night's sleep in his own bed this weekend. So we await the engine notes rising then as we throw the lighting gantry to the top of the screen so that you can see the start of the Porsche Carrera Cup race number 2. As we go racing, Thomas Preining immediately diving to the inside to protect that inside line going into turn number 1 from Michael Ammermuller. Larry ten Voorde on the outside of Michael Ammermuller. Here comes Marius Nacken then once again with a charge around the outside, but Larry ten Voorde, the back end of his car steps out. That plays into the hands of Tony Wolff, who's able to move himself up ahead of the Project One driver. Michael Ammermuller then with a better few opening turns than yesterday. Let's hear from him. Preining braked a little too early and then passed me on the left. I couldn't brake later. I hit Preining anyway, but that's perfectly normal. Nobody got pushed off track like yesterday. A normal start, I'd say. On board with Stefan Rakoff, who's behind Henrik Skoog and Jacob Eidson. It's racing, Carrera Cup style. Let's go on board now with Jacob Eidson, last third of the field. Jaap van Lagen again, starting from the back, has to overtake an awful lot of cars. And as you can see, Jaap van Lagen is on a real mission. And the next car in his target sights is that of the number 33, Stefan Rakoff machine. So Dylan Pereira is behind Henrik Skoog, Lucas Oertel and Jacob Eidson are behind them. Lucas Oertel, the same situation here. So on board with Lucas Oertel then inside the car. And let's go on board with Henrik Skoog now as Dylan Pereira attacks. So Dylan Pereira having a go here. Is he going to be able to make it? Henrik Skoog with the inside line into that turn and is able to deny Dylan Pereira. This is a rare error from Thomas Preining. But Mikael Ammermuller is not able to take advantage of that as we go back on board with Henrik Skoog at the start-finish straight. Gets on the dirty part of the track and therefore Dylan Pereira now with extra momentum is able to get past. So on board with Pereira as Jacob Eidson and Lucas Oertel right behind. On board now with Jacob Eidson, who's behind Dylan Pereira. The situation where the Luxembourger can overtake Henrik Skoog. Absolutely fantastic as we look at Larry ten Voorde, who of course is still behind Wolf, and Wolf is really defending his position. So wherever Larry ten Voorde puts the car, he is being denied by Wolf ahead of him. So Larry ten Voorde trying really, really hard and potentially getting a bit frustrated. Back on board with Henrik Skoog, this time getting past the Jacob Eidson car. So Henrik Skoog goes through and makes up a further place, and Carlos Rivas is leading the amateur class. So Carlos Rivas then hoping to make it 2 out of 2 in the amateur classification for this weekend, and certainly in a position to so do. Glenn Van Paris, well, he takes to the grass several times. Car and tyres still seem to be okay for the MRS GT racing driver, and on board with Dylan Pereira, who now is trying to reel in Carlos Rivas at the end of the start-finish straight. He's got the inside line. Carlos Rivas leaves him racing room, and so Dylan Pereira is able to go through. This is an innovative onboard shot where you can see the steering and the suspension working very hard on the Glenn Van Paris car. So once again, he takes to the grass rather than the tarmac, and doesn't look too good. The rear right wheel here deflating, as you can see. So Glenn Van Paris is going to have to nurse the car back to the pit lane. It's the last race for him this year because he will not be at the Hockenheim Grand Finale. So Thomas Preining in the lead, followed by Mikael Ammermuller. A comfortable gap, and P3 and P4 it's still Wolf and ten Voorde. So onboards from both of them. First of all, this is Wolf. Ten Voorde getting ever closer. And Larry ten Voorde continuing to pile the pressure onto Wolf ahead of him, and eventually that pressure pays off because there is a small mistake from the local boy, and that's a great shame as Larry ten Voorde is able to go through. I rode the inner curb a little too hard. Then I lost the rear a little, and I had to leave the racing line. Larry then passed me on the inside. It all went so quickly, I couldn't avoid it. I think he rode the curbs too much. Then there was a little gap, and if a Flying Dutchman is approaching, he exploits it. Yes, it worked out, and I'm very proud of it. Pereira is unstoppable today. He's overtaking Gustav Malje here from a long way back, dive to the inside, but wants it too much and ends up spinning the car. A lot going on towards the closing stages of the race, and this is Szczepański in the gravel, who is not able to continue in the race. And as you can see, the car kicking up so much gravel, and the safety car is going to be called for. The safety car is out. And let's go on board now with Thomas Preining then, of course, who built up a very comfortable lead over Mikael Ammermuller and into the race control. And Szczepański leaves the track on foot with the front splitter of his car as well. Ammermuller then, he will sense the opportunity to get the better of Thomas Preining on this restart, but Thomas Preining is wise to it. As they cross the start-finish line, it is Thomas Preining, Mikael Ammermuller, and then Larry ten Voorde, the 1, 2, 3. Dylan Pereira tries it again, and this time it does seem to work out. The field is closer together once again. In the end, you can see that Dylan Pereira did not overtake Gustav Malje. Pereira will finish P11 in the end. On board with Stefan Raykop, fighting with Chris Wright and the guest starter Mayer. You can see Stefan Raykop on the wide outside there loses out first of all to Chris Wright, and then Mayer will come through on the inside of the Stefan Raykop car. So Stefan Rakoff now relegated to further 2 places, but the last few metres for Thomas Preining, who will win again. The Austrian has got everything completely under control. Team Lechner once again will be very happy, as you can see. And Thomas Preining then, yet another race win. His girlfriend's pretty happy about that too. I knew what I had to do in the situations that came up today. So I was never really under pressure. I just did my thing, and fortunately, I succeeded. Podium ceremony, Preining first, Ammermuller second, Larry Tenvorder P3. Preining leads now with 27 points, and that means the first Hockenheim race in the season finale can already be decisive. Not long to wait, 21st to the 23rd of September at that Hockenheim circuit. Bye-bye for now.